Hello, everybody. I am trying out a new feature. Um, let's see how this will go because I don't know um, if you'll be able to hear me.
Welcome back to the Digital Town Crier. I'm Lola AI,
Let's see.
and today Gladys and I are discussing the Netflix documentary Maternal Instinct. The story has left many viewers shocked, saddened, and asking difficult questions. Many viewers were especially surprised.
So let me start this again and then we'll
Welcome
do.
back to the Digital Town Crier. I'm Lola AI, and today Gladys and I are discussing the Netflix documentary Maternal Instinct. The story has left many viewers shocked, saddened, and asking difficult questions. Many viewers were especially surprised by how long her deception continued. People have asked how her boyfriend, family members, and others could miss so many warning signs. During
And I am Gladys, and Lola, it's good that we watched this documentary and we're here to tell the story from our perspective. So, a young woman whose web of lies were just extensive, and ultimately it ended in murder. It ended in the murder of an innocent woman and the kidnapping of an unborn baby. It was a heartbreak to see it and just to see how her family has to deal with this loss that she had gone through. So, it's one of the most shocking documentaries, and it has happened. Similar things have happened in the past before.
the trial, experts testified about several psychological and neurological concerns. Can you explain those?
Yeah, so according to the testimony presented during the trial, expert described a significant cluster B personality trait. Cluster B personality disorders include conditions that are categorized by dramatic, emotional, erratic behavior, traits that include manipulation, impulsivity, being unstable, having unstable relationships, lack of empathy, grandiosity, and difficulty in accepting responsibility. The defense in this case also presented testimony that she may have had a frontal lobe dysfunction. The frontal lobe plays a major part in our judgment, in our decision making, in our impulse control, our emotional regulation, and understanding consequences. So the defense argued that the neurological impairment contributed to the behavior that she was displaying. However, the forensic evaluators ultimately determined that despite these issues, she still understood the difference between right and wrong, and at least at the time of the crime. And so this played a role in the legal sentence that she got.
One important point is that having a mental health condition does not automatically make someone violent.
Absolutely. So the overwhelming majority of people who are living with mental health concerns are not necessarily violent at all. They may never commit a violent crime. Mental illness should never be used as a blanket um, explanation for violence. More individuals with personality disorders or neurological conditions, depression, anxiety, and different diagnoses, they do struggle, but they do not focus on harming other people. That is one thing that is not a direct correlation to having a mental health concern.
Let's talk about the relationship aspect. Why do people sometimes ignore obvious red flags? What
There are several reasons why people may ignore a red flag that they see. They may want to believe the best in someone that they love. The deception develops gradually over time. Manipulative individuals can be very convincing. There's that emotional investment that makes it difficult to accept the uncomfortable truth. People often explain away behavior rather than confront them. And then there might be a fear of losing the relationship that can override the concerns that are being expressed. Family and friends may raise concerns, but the person involved may feel misunderstood or defensive, which is exactly what we see in the film. There are so many people that saw this thing happening. There are so many people that were warning her boyfriend, but he decided that he decided on his own that he wasn't going to listen to them. And so as people are watching this documentary, that's one of the things that are coming out is how could he have ignored all of the signs, and then how could he have ignored everything that his friends and family were telling him. So intelligence alone doesn't protect someone from manipulative behavior. And so, there, people are kind of deducing, oh, something was wrong with him. He was dumb. He was stupid. And all of these things that has nothing to do with intelligence. In fact, highly intelligent people can sometimes rationalize very troubling behavior rather than recognize it and, take care of it and do something about it.
Here's some relationship warning signs people should pay attention to. This
So, some red flags include frequent dishonesty or changes in the person's story, which was happening in this, as the documentary is filming, is showing that she was very inconsistent in the stories that she was sharing. Constant victimization, where everyone else is to blame. Extreme jealousy or possessiveness. So for a while, when we're being raised and we're being taught about relationships, sometimes it may come across where people are making it seem like when the other person's jealous or something like that, that's a sign that they love you more. But extreme jealousy and possession have nothing to do with the person loving you more. It has more to do with control, and it can become very abusive, as we saw in this case. Isolation from family and friends. So, with this gentleman, the conflict that he started having in his relationship, because his family was telling him all these things, he decided to push, his family away. And then eventually his best friend, he pushed him away. And so those things can create isolation. Manipulation through guilt or threats, grandiose claims that cannot be verified, which is exactly what we saw. So she was saying that she was saying that she was a millionaire, or she was an heiress, and that she was going to earn or inherit a bunch of money, and that her mom was the one who was getting in the way of her earning this money and things like that. And so she, kind of had these grandiose claims that she was going to earn this money, and then she was going to be helpful to him and his family. And eventually his mom the way his mom realized that this was false is that she had bought his mom, or she told his mom that she had bought him a car. And the mom eventually found out that, because the the girl lied to her and said that the car was, something was being recalled on the car, so they were going to take it back to the dealer. And then the mom called the dealer eventually when the car wasn't coming back, and the dealer told her, hey, this car wasn't ever paid for, so we repossessed the car. And that's when his mom realized that there was something going on that was beyond just what she had already started suspecting and things like that. Obviously, this is when she started, giving him a lot of warnings about it. But then again, this is when things, in their relationship started to turn sour because he didn't want to believe that something like this could happen, and things like that. So yeah, um, it does create that space where there's so much conflict, and again, like I said, it brings on that isolation piece. So another some other red flags are repeated crisis that always seem to center around them, refusal to take responsibility for harmful actions, and patterns of deception that continue even when confronted with evidence. And we could see through the film that when anybody confronted her or when her boyfriend confronted her, she always had something to say. She always had an excuse. She always blamed her mother, for example, with a lot of the things, because she said her mother was the one who was holding her back from her inheritance, and her mother was the one who was doing all of these different things. So one red flag alone doesn't mean that somebody's dangerous, but consistent patterns deserve attention. So it's important to pay attention when you feel like something isn't quite right.
This tragedy left a family devastated. How can communities support families after unimaginable loss? Some
So the first thing to remember is that there is no perfect thing to say in a case like this, because the boyfriend experienced that tragedy, and then obviously the young woman that lost her life, her family experienced a tragedy too. So there's hardly ever a perfect thing that anybody can say during a time like that. People often worry about what to say, and sometimes it's better to just sit and listen. So listen more than you speak. Allow the person to share their memories of their loved one. Acknowledge the loss and how difficult it must have been it must be ongoing for the family. Continue to check in on them. So even the weeks that immediately happens, the family may have a lot of visitors. They may have a lot of people that are checking and things like that. But check on them months later, years later. Keep checking and seeing that they're okay. Do practical things for the family. So prepare meals. You can always get a meal train going. If you need to transport, the children back and forth, like if they're children, if you need to transport them back and forth to school, you can do that as well. So take up some practical things to give the family some time, and some form of a break.
Sometimes people say things like, everything happens for a reason. While well intended, that can be painful to hear during grief.
Yes, it definitely can. So when someone is grieving, they usually don't need answers from us. They need companionship. They need someone who is willing to sit with them through their pain without trying to explain it away.
What would you want our listeners to take away from this documentary?
So first, trust your instincts when something feels wrong about what someone is saying or doing. Pay attention to patterns rather than isolated incidents, because there will definitely be patterns in what is happening. So pay attention to the patterns. Second, a mental health condition does not excuse harmful behavior, nor do they automatically predict it. So always remember that just because somebody has a mental health condition doesn't mean that they will be violent or try to harm someone else as a result. And third, relationships require honesty, accountability, and healthy boundaries. Finally, remember that the true victim in this story, behind every headline, there is a family that is struggling, that is suffering, whose hearts are breaking, and they're just going through some of the worst times in their lives. And so it's important to remember that, especially with the way the internet is, and everybody can comment and everybody can say things that they say. It's really important to remember that people, are going through a lot during tragedies and during times like this.
Thank you, Gladys. This has been a thoughtful and important discussion. Welcome back to the Digital
So thank you, Lola. It has been an important discussion. I hope that everybody that listens to this will take something important from it. This documentary, like I said, is something that highlights something, tragedies and things that have happened before in the past. And there are a lot of people who have been stressed and grieving and just dealing with this loss. So let's always remember that behind these documentaries, that there are people that are, dealing with these things in their real life. So I want to take a moment to thank everybody for joining us, everybody that has listened. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about the documentary. In the video that we're going to be bringing out tomorrow, we will be discussing what would happen in the counseling office, in a counseling room when somebody comes in for therapy. So please join us for that. We do release videos every Wednesday. I look forward to the one that is coming up. And thank you guys so much for listening. Please do like and subscribe, but most of all, please comment. We want to know that you were here and that you were listening. So leave us a comment and say hi. All right. Thank you guys.